started for today. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to be challenged today to go back and forth between screens. So now you should be able to see some slides.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, sweet. Okay, so welcome, you guys. We are just feel like we're building such a strong cohort of facilitators. It is extremely exciting to us. So, and I think when you see what we're going to try and do here, there's never enough time to do what we need to do, but we're going to squeeze a whole bunch of stuff into this mid-year manual. So Drew and I are here to talk you through it, and then work with you when we get on site in Altamont Springs in just a few weeks. So what we wanted to do is we want to just give you a brief overview of the Check and Connect Institute Plus. That's what we call it this year, is it's got a bunch of sort of moving components to it. And then we're going to talk specifically about this year's team meetings. So y'all are going to have a little bit more, we think, structure to this year's meetings than we did last year at the mid-year. And then, exciting, we're so excited. And if you could see Claudia, she's smiling from ear to ear. And our online planning system that you've been using through the paper model at the Annual Institute and last year's mid-year, it's ready. Or it will be ready by the time 2 weeks from now, we're planning to be launching it. And then we're going to go over some of the prep materials, some of which Drew's loaded up into the Zoom system. So the first thing we're going to do is look at the agenda. So, you know, we have been starting these college and career transition clubs around the state. We had 50 that were working this past year. We have, I think, added 3 more to that number so far that will be starting this year. And so we're having an annual meeting of them. Now, it's not quite as many people as we were hoping to have. Right now we have 10 clubs that will be participating, and they're all bringing students. There are 2 or more students from each of the clubs, and then the club sponsor. And then I think for a couple of clubs, some of the parents of the students are coming on. And because we asked them to bring a student with an intellectual disability and a student, and then they can be a student without a disability. But we wanted to make sure a student with an intellectual disability was on there as part of their team. But then when we start thinking about the Check and Connect mid-year, our focus is on 3 primary areas, and we pulled these areas out from the evaluations and the technical assistance requests that we get following the annual institute. So it's going to focus on really families, faculty, and staff from other campus units. So working with families, working with faculty, looking at how people are actually delivering their curriculum, and then looking at staff, how they're using or engaging other campus units in doing the work of the programs. And I think this information should be really helpful to y'all because it's really it's more about the infrastructure this time. We focused last year like on credentials and what programs we're doing. Now we're kind of trying to dig deep into the infrastructure of, well, how are you working with families? How are you doing orientation? Who's teaching your classes? How are they being prepared to work with kids with intellectual disabilities? And then one of the big things as you go and you work with these programs who are existing or who are new, we have some new teams coming, then, you know, it's kind of overwhelming. Most of them, when you look at their staff, they have maybe a program coordinator, and then they have mentors and just little pieces of people. So part of it is, you know, how do you get everything done? And so we're sort of looking at how some of the programs are, you know, farming out or actually really integrating their program into the responsibilities of other campus units. So that's kind of exciting. And then we'll focus, you know, on content and strategy development, what people are doing, and then we'll have team reporting, team planning, and report out, and that's where y'all come in. And so we do have existing and new teams that are coming to this, and then following the Check and Connect part of the Institute, excuse me, we've got a peer tutoring workshop. So this is again that the CRLA. Yeah.
CRLA.
Them. So Michael will be here again. Michael Sens, he'll be here again. And we did a pre-institute workshop for mentoring. This is going to be on peer tutoring. And right now, I think we had like 65 people registered for that. I don't know. It seems to be growing. So that's cool. So remember, when you're working with your programs, the focus is on employment outcomes, delivered in inclusive context. The students have to attend at no less than half-time enrollment. So if typical full-time enrollment is 12 credits, then the student should be enrolled for at least 6. How the programs do that across their curriculum varies. So mainly if you're working with the tech schools, like some of you have in the past, I know Chris has worked with Lee County, you know, they're in their regular programs. So those programs go full time, they last a year, 2 years, 2.5 years, whatever. So in that case, that figuring out what halftime is isn't really necessary for them, because they're just implementing their full credential program. The students have to earn a meaningful credential, and in many cases, that as they're working towards that credential provided by the institution, they're earning industry certifications. Or as they complete the program, like at Robert Morgan in their graphic arts program, if they complete that, then they can go on and test for the Adobe certification. So that industry certification is sometimes embedded in programs, and sometimes it's an opportunity upon completion of their program. Another thing that, of course, B is real familiar with is that whole concept of satisfactory academic performance, satisfactory academic progress, so that each program has to build in how they're going to measure that for their students. And students have to make SAP, as we call it, to continue receiving financial aid, either federal financial aid or their Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program scholarships. So that's one thing that people often struggle with in some of the institutions. I think like St. Pete College, for example, it's the same definition of SAP as it is for all their students. In other cases, it might vary a little bit. So they're really looking at each portion of a student's program and looking at SAP across that program. And then all the programs subsequently have to submit a federal application to become a comprehensive transition program. And you know, that's just something we remind them of. We remind them of when they're making their applications. Just so you know, since the January Institute, I think we've received 5 new applications. So that's pretty fantastic, we think. And those are in various stages of development. And some have been approved. Tallahassee Community College has been approved. Lee County, which is implementing the program in 2 of their tech colleges, has been approved. We have a application and grant proposal from Orange Tech here in the Orlando area. FIU is poised to submit theirs. Okay, who else, Drew? We have another one. Broward College. We just gave them feedback on their grant proposal. So that's Immokalee. We got a application from Immokalee Tech down in Collier County. So that's 6 that have just come since January. So we're really excited about that. So keep in mind that the resources that are available for these programs are, once their program gets approved, then their students are eligible for annual scholarships of $7,000 each. Once the programs get their federal CTP approval, the students are also eligible for federal financial aid. We also have the Startup and Enhancement grants still available, so they're up to $300,000, and they can spread that over 1, 2, or 3 years. And then with the college and career transition clubs that we've been trying to get people to connect to, those clubs can get $6,000 a year for 2 years. And the whole idea of those is to stimulate demand for these other programs. So get kids with disabilities, with intellectual disabilities, and kids without disabilities thinking about career goals and how they're going to achieve those. And if there are not opportunities in their part of the state, and we have some areas that are lacking, then let's start generating the demand for a Florida post-secondary comprehensive transition program. And then of course they get technical assistance and support from our center and our wonderful people. As in January, we have participants from across the IHEs. So we have right now 20 teams that have registered here to come to this mid-year, and they range from 2 to 6 people on a team. And that's not even adding the VR. I think, Drew, we probably have a dozen VR people registered.
Yes, we do.
Spreadsheet over there. And so we're working with Carmen DuPont to assign the VR people to the teams that are in their regions that they serve. So she'll be helping with that. We have a really good buy-in with VR, I think, or a good connection with VR. And of course, as you know, most of you have done at least this once, have done this at least once. So, you know, there's just a variation on the team makeup. We have a team coming from Daytona State College, for example, of 2 people. That is 1 special education faculty member from Daytona State and their transition specialist from Volusia County. So you can see that variation that goes across. Exciting, Janice and Chris, we have a team of 2 people coming from University of Florida, Jacksonville campus. And we have another team of 3 people that actually doesn't include Denise from Florida State College at Jacksonville. So it's cool. And then we've got 6 people coming that are split between Department of Corrections and Florida Gateway College. Is that it, Drew?
Right. Yes. In Lake City.
Yep. So, and Chris, you worked with them before, and so now we've had several conference calls with the DOC people, and they've been connecting further with the college people. So they're really serious about trying to make something happen for kids with intellectual disabilities that are incarcerated. So that's pretty cool. So you can tell we're excited about this. So I'm just going to run through the kind of data that, again, you can remind your people of that helps them as they go through their planning. So, you know, how many people are out there that we might serve? How many people are, you know, coming to us and connecting with that indicator 13? What we want people to know is that once they start these programs, and we send this message to the special ed directors a lot, is if you get these programs going in your area, your indicator 13 and 14 data are going to improve. So, and most likely your 1 and 2 data as well. So that's the 13 would be the post-secondary goals, and specifically post-secondary education goals, so that kids with intellectual disabilities actually have opportunities to go to college. And then, of course, the indicator 14 is the employment of students a year out. And the whole focus of these programs is on employment. So clearly your indicator 14 data should improve too. If there are LEA profiles, question?
Just as a former K-12 special ed person, indicator 14, the first item, which is the hardest for most states to reach, is the number of youth who are attending post-secondary education or training. Yeah. And that's the one that's going to be really critical on indicator 14. Yeah. And that's one thing that they can push with their local school districts and school organizations. Employment, everybody's good on employment, but it's that higher ed piece that Steve's
I know, that's true. Our national center we're responsible for analyzing all the state's data for 1, 2, 13, and 14. And, 14 kind of sucks in that area and in terms of post-secondary, particularly for this population of students. So, and that's why we did a webinar or we did a presentation to all the special ed directors here a couple of weeks ago. Wendy Matty had us do that for her for their monthly meeting or whatever it is. And then next week we'll actually be down at the CASE conference, Drew and I both, and we'll have 2 opportunities to talk to people down there. So that's what we keep pitching to them, is their indicator 13 and 14 data, and then advocating, joining a higher ed team, and that's where some of the emphasis has come from to start these programs, has been from those K-12 people. So that's a good thing. Anyway, y'all are sort of familiar with these data. I won't talk about them anymore, but just thinking about those are the things that you can bring up with your teams. And they're, like I said, they're on your chat box. That these slides are there, so you're going to be able to just take those and do with them what you want. Okay, so particularly those of you who have been working with us in INTAC, and at least half of you have, we work using kind of a framework so that we can integrate information and planning to folks. So right now, as we spent 2 years, Janice was involved in that, Chris was involved in that, B was involved in that, so that we looked at the research, we looked at what we're doing in K-12 and the taxonomy, we looked at what the college was doing, and we created our post-secondary education program planning tool. And so, as we do with our national sort of K-12 secondary transition tool, we look at bringing that together in an organized way. So in this case, we're focusing on 4 areas: directly on students, focus on faculty and staff, focus on program and what's happening at the institutional level. And actually, we kind of do this in a different student, then program, and then we look broader at the system and the community. And so those of you who are used to working with the INTAC taxonomy, transition taxonomy, we've used 5 areas there. But when we worked with our team of quote unquote experts, we took the construct of the information that was generated, and it really worked out into these 4 areas. So when we think about developing these programs, this planning process is really focused on first building the team, and then the team's doing a self-assessment that looks at what they're doing, how well they're doing it, what their strengths are, what their needs are, and what their priorities are. And that's the facilitator's job, is to have them talk about those things. But the tool gives you an organized way of talking about those things. And then subsequently, once they set their priorities, then looking at planning in terms of, okay, what are going to be our goals? What are we going to do? When are we going to do it? What are we going to achieve? And then how are we going to figure out if we achieve that in terms of evaluation? So that's really the process that we use as we walk through the tool. So I'm excited to show you guys this. Let me get my page up there. Where is my tool? There it is. Okay, I have to go in here, and I have to stop share. I have to come over here, and I have to share, and I have to share my screen. Can you see that now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So welcome to the new post-secondary planning tool. So what you're going to do actually is, what I should do is I should log out. And so when you first put in, you're going to use the same login that you use when you're working with INTAC. And I need to write this down so that you guys have it. So it's transitionprogramtool.org. So keep that in mind, transitionprogramtool.org. And when you get into that login page, the first thing you're going to do is select post-secondary. And then it's going to take you to a login page. So, and I'll go through that in just a minute. The login page is going to be your email address. And then if you're already in the Intact system, you'll just use your same password. So Susan and Chris and Janice and Gwen and others who, Stephen, who have just facilitated for Intact, it'll still be your name. And you'll see all the stuff that you have access to. You're still going to have access to the same stuff. So now I need to go, I don't know how to do this without doing this. I want to go back to my main screen because I'm gonna come back to that for just a second. So when you see the online, can you see my slides now?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. So when you see I think I know a better way to do that. I'm gonna put that over there, and I'm just gonna make that go down for now. Well, no, that doesn't work. Anyway, you're going to see it's directly aligned with Intact system. So basically we cloned that, but we changed the content. So we've made a lot of system improvements, as some of you found in Charlotte, with just the way things work better. But we've also done, several more adjustments to make this the post-secondary line in it. Stephen, don't you want us to present this at HEAD? It would be so exciting. We would be so excited. So anyway, and
We're to write a proposal.
I know we're building this. We missed it somehow. We're building this so that people all over the country can use it. So just so you know. So anyway, it's just different content. So, and then it's aligned with the 4 domains and the benchmarks that we've been using with paper. So what you've seen and have been using with your teams at our institutes on paper is exactly the same as this. Step 1 is team info, step 2 is self-assessment, and step 3 is planning. So I'm going to go back to the team for a minute. I don't know how to get back there now. Stop share.
Okay.
We'll have to go to the.
I can't leave right now, so just.
Okay, hold on a second. I have to pull this up and now I have to move it over here. Okay, and I can put that in its right place. And then I can put this up. And I can do current slide. Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm going to log in. And right now we're in a test site because we're not quite finished building. Then I want to just breeze through it just a little to show you guys. Okay.
Okay, we can't see your screen anymore.
Oh, okay. Hold on 1 second. 2, 3, S, G. Okay, so Zoom, where'd you go? There. Okay, should be able to see it now.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm signing. If you forget your password, you can always send for another. Now, this sample assessment, we will be building sample assessments in, but we don't have them ready yet. They may be there by the time we get to the institute, but we're not sure. And you won't have state assessments, so that piece is coming off. But basically, you're going to have an institution assessment, and right now, when you go to log in, you will have your own assessment. So we'll have a facilitator test site for you. And then based on your team assignment, you will have, okay, here we go, branch. Show. Okay, why is that not climbing up, Claudia?
Maybe, remember, we are still building that, so.
Yeah, so I had to go in the state. Okay, here we go. So right now I have to go into the state to get it. So one of our challenges with building this structure of this tool is we have now some places like Lee County, and Broward County, and they're implementing the program at different institutions. And we want to be able to track what's happening at each institution. So the district may be employing the personnel, but the programs at each institution are unique to that institution. So what we're doing is we're building a hierarchical structure. So all of these plans, these post-secondaries, are going to be nested in their states, just like we have your locals nested in states. So you all, when you get into Intact, you go to your state, pull up that current year's assessment. So in this case, we're building it so that we would have a Lee County, for example, and Lee County, and then underneath it we have Cape Coral Tech and Fort Myers Tech. And then in Broward County, it would be, say, McFadder Tech, and then I forget the new school that they're adding. There'd be another one there. This would also apply for FAU. So FAU's program is now on both the Jupiter and the Boca campus. So we'll have an IHE that would be at the county or district level, like when you're working within a state, and then we'll have the specific institution underneath that. So, so kind of keep that in mind if you're working with those that are now branching out into different campuses, that we're going to set it up that way. And, you know, this will be all emerging because we've just started using that sort of district level with the Intact tool. So it's kind of new in how these things are going to get set up. But I think we'll figure it out. So anyway, this is one of the test sites. It's the same thing. People can download what they're doing. We took out the technical soundness document for now. We'll build that back in, but we took that, and we're building the opportunity to have people generate more reports from their system. They can upload documents. So if they have some of those data documents that we talked about earlier, they can upload them in here, or they can now add links for maybe their school district profile or whatever. So they can add links, and then they're able to go to those places when they're doing their planning. So this is you're already gonna see this same login. It'll be continuous assessment, because we're going to go in here ahead of time, and we're going to build the site, we're going to put in the team leader, and then we're actually going to enter their data from their January 19 plan. So right now it's a test, but you can see I have reporting and tools available to me. Those won't be available to them, but it's the same thing. Enter your team, assess your status, and then you have your 4 domains across here. And then within the domains, you've got all the benchmarks. You've got the reflective questions that came off the paper tool. So those are all there. And it's the same process. So it's the same process you used with paper, and it's the same process that you used with, that we used on paper. So they're going to describe what they're doing. They're going to look at their current strengths, and they're going to come up with the current needs, and then whether or not they want to develop a plan. And so, okay, why can't I move? Why can't I move up? There we go. So then their planning area is going to be the same thing. So all their information will flow forward into their planning site. There will be instructions here on how they do. We're still editing this text a little bit. And again, we're building capacity. We're developing programs to serve students with disabilities in post-secondary settings. All that kind of stuff will be edited to be specific to post-secondary. And then you'll go into your goals. So we're building sample goals. So you can see I got this written yesterday and Friday. So, you know, as you guys are working in this, we would love your feedback on this. So part of it will be, we didn't have sample goals and those kinds of things in the paper, but this is an important part of the online, is providing all this information. So, so we've got the sample goals for this first area, and then we've got example strategies. So, so they haven't evidently gotten that text in there yet, but for every domain, we've got example strategies, and they're all organized by these categories. So these were the ones we developed that July. And so there's examples in every single one of these categories that people could use in this student-focused area. And then one of the things you'll be doing is this will be start plan, and this is we've already, you know, this is a test, so we've already started a plan, so we're continuing a plan. And you know, here's the date, here's the area, here's the goal, here are the strategies, and then we will be entering the task exam. I don't think we will have. Well, we might have a few task examples. I haven't been focusing on those. There's so many task examples in the strategies that if that's the last thing that gets done, then we're happy with it. But for outputs and outcomes, we've got lots of those developed. We've got lots of examples for outcomes, indicators, and data sources. So you'll see lists of those. So that just helps add to the knowledge of your folks. And then, do people need additional stakeholders when they go back to their home site? And then what kind of resources, and whether or not they need technical assistance from, say, us. So that's it. That's how it looks. Those of you who have worked in the online system for Intact will be real familiar with it. And then those that haven't, but who have been working with us through the paper planning, it's parallel to that. So we'll be, as we get ready for this rollout, we'll be giving each of you a test site. So that'll happen. Right now our target date is on the 18th. When we come together for on-site facilitator prep, then we're going to focus a lot on using the tool. Because one of the things that you're going to be doing in this very brief meeting time that you have is really introducing the people to the tool, so that they start or going to their site and working with their site. So you could literally spend, you know, an hour or 45 minutes of your planning time just getting people into the tool, one, and then two, then talking about, okay, here's your plan that you came up with in January, if there is one. In some places there won't be one. And you know, they can start looking at where they are in that planning process. We're still going to have copies, paper copies, and thumb drives of all the files for you all. So when you get, if you're assigned FIU, then you will have a thumb drive that has FIUs. Everything FIU is done at any of our institutes, from Institute 1 to last year's mid-year to Institute 2, and anything we have gotten from them. And so you'll have that, and then you'll have a paper file of that. And then you will also have, we'll give hard copies of the whatever exists for a team and blank forms for everybody. So if you have a team from FIU with 5 people on it, then all 5 of their people will have a copy of what their existing plan is. We'll give that to them when they check in, and then everybody have blank forms. So if you find it at this point more expedient to work with your team using the paper forms, introducing them to to the online system, but more comfortable or better use of your time to work on the paper form, then feel free to do that. Some of the people, they just bring new people every time. So some of the people aren't even really used to, they don't even know what the team plan is. So again, we want to introduce people to let them know it's there. The team leader will have their sign-on as a, I'll get into this, but the team leader will have a site as the team leader. Whoever's registered as a team leader with us will be the team leader on the plan, and then they will have, they'll be able to sign in, and then we will have entered the team members that were on the 2019 January plan. So they can add team members. It's just whatever you all feel at that point is going to be the best use of your time. We don't really have the opportunity to do advanced prep for the online system for the June for this June meeting with the team leaders. So normally, those of you who've been working with us through Intech know that we usually do a team leader prep. We've done that with our institutes here as well, but there's just really not enough time to do that this time. So I just want you to know that. So what do you think, June? You like the way it looks? June's been developing this online system with me since the beginning. So.
This is great. Sorry, I was on mute, so you didn't hear all my stuff. Yeah, I think that's great, and I'll volunteer to help with your examples if you'd like some help.
Oh man, I've been wanting to send that to you. I was afraid to ask.
Well, no, that'll be something good I can do while I'm just
okay. That is fantastic. Okay, so there's that stuff. So again, you guys are, your teams are so different. Now we've got some teams again with 2 people. And so, you might have a team of 3 teams of 2 people to work with. And part of them is just bring them into this process, get them to, I don't know why this thing is doing that. Oh, go away. Part of them, part of that is to, just get them going in the process, get them used to the tool, so that, okay, I gotta get out of here so I can control this stupid thing. Use timings, no, thank you. Okay, slideshow, maybe we'll stop fooling me. So again, what we really like to see as people move forward with this is that they come out with one goal, and they come out with a plan that supports that one goal. So they don't have to worry about 5 goals. If you can get them to focus on one and move forward with that one, then that's fantastic. And again, what we've learned over the years is that the facilitators have the power to, okay, now it's not even going. Okay. The facilitators have the power to, improve the quality of your thing. Okay, I gotta figure out why my thing is not. I don't want to use timings. I don't want to rehearse them. I just want to click to do that. Okay, so did I get into this stuff? Yeah, so we did. I think we might have slipped over this slide as the thing was progressing itself. But so the system's pretty much built. We're testing it. Claudia's spending many hours daily testing, and we're working. If some of you may have met Tammy in Charlotte, and her team is just fantastic. So we're working with them to just get any kind of little bug that we see. We will have a site developed for each IHE team. So if you have 3 teams that you're working with, each will have a site. If they we'll enter their team information from either the registration that we have or from what was in their 2019 January plan. And then we'll enter all of their information from January if they have a plan or had something in there. Some of them have assessment information, but not a plan. So whatever is there, we'll enter. And then, of course, we'll be assigning a facilitator. Now, that's going to happen probably by the end of next week. And it could happen the end of this week, but we need to see everybody that's registered, how many people we have on each of the teams, and then we can match you all with teams. And we, of course, have a record of who you worked with in the past. So we try to keep those going. Unless you have some preference not to work with a team, then please let us know. And then once you are able to, as we get ready for this rollout, okay, then we'll give you your test site. All right, went through all that. Okay. Okay, I started talking about technical sound. So anyway, you will be able to get in. Now what we're going to do, and I'll get to that in just a minute, is we are actually going to send you the electronic files of whatever team we end up putting you with. So you'll have a electronic file of what they did in January, if they did anything. You'll have your log on, and you'll be able to get into their site once it's built. So the idea is that we want you to be a little bit familiar with the teams that you're working with in case you haven't worked with them before. Okay, so again, the facilitator focus is on the quality of what they're doing. And you know, when you're working with some of these teams, they're kind of like herding cats, and well, they don't want to use it, or you know, whatever the case may be. Okay, I think this is going backwards. My clicker's not working. It's only working with my wheel. So I took out all the slides that talk about the relationship between technical soundness and goal attainment, but in our studies that we've conducted, then we see this significant relationship between the better plan you have, the more likely people are to achieve their goals. So just keep that in mind. Here, I'm not going to go through all of these because you have the slides, but it's just things that you can think about as you work through that planning part. So in terms of the goals, you know, if they have a goal, make sure it's still relevant. Is that still what you want your goal to be? Does it need to be revised? If they've already done it, what do they do next? What kind of TA do they need? What kind of assistance do they need? And again, we want to make sure they're outcomes, they're not activities. Then when you think about the task, is that going to move them toward their goal? You know, they really need to be, this is what we're going to do, this is who's going to do it, and this is when it's going to happen. That's kind of the key part of tasks. And then outputs and products, again, you'll see when you look at the examples, when you get in and start exploring your sample site, your test site, then you'll see all those examples of outputs. It might be a new curriculum. It might be a new credential. It might be a new assessment process. It might be a new admissions process. It might be professional development for faculty. But it's something that's going to be produced, and that's not the outcome. It's just what they've generated that's going to help them achieve the outcome. And then when you're looking at the outcomes, thinking about, did somebody's knowledge increase? Did somebody's behavior change or improve? Did you change a condition that facilitates student success? And you'll see those of you working with INTAC and those of you who looked at some of the things in our paper, is I've tried to write all these with our students will use technology to succeed in their program. Our students will exercise self-determination. These are goals. So then when you start looking at your outcomes, they're going to be very specific things. Our students advocate for their accommodations in their classrooms. So it's broken down to our students, our faculty, our staff. So hopefully with those kinds of outcomes and whatnot, then it's more personal to them, and they think about how does this look on our campus. So, and again, you'll have all of those indicator examples that tell us how do we know the outcome happened? Is it a number of students who advocate in class? Is it a number of students who make SAP? Is it the number of students who earn an industry credential? Is it parent satisfaction with communications with the program? Is it student satisfaction with their peer mentors? So those are the kinds of indicators that you'll be helping them identify or figure out. And then where will they get the information about the indicators? Where are those data sources? It could be professional development records. It could be pre-test, post-test. It could be student grades. It could be number of referrals. We hope they don't have those in post-secondary, but that's the idea, is where are you going to get the information, and without creating an information overload. Now, one of the things that you could do if you really wanted to study this would be go into our website and look at our annual report data. So we have an annual report that the programs have to file each year about their program, and then they have to do an annual report for each student in the program. In many cases, they don't need to create additional indicators or data sources. They need to go to that annual report and say, well, we already got to collect information on SAP. We got to collect information on how many students are in work experience. We already have to collect information on blah, 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 so that we're not creating new data collection responsibilities, but we're tying things together. My new focus, well, my continuing focus is on connecting things, tying things together, so we don't have people spending time on figuring stuff out or collecting facing duplicate responsibilities. So when you look at our agenda, I didn't even pull up the agenda, did I? I've got that, and it's attached here as a file. Your facilitated team discussion is just going to be for about 2 hours. From 11:30 to 1:30, and we'll have assigned to meeting spaces. Now, it's not going to be separate rooms like we do at the Institute. It's going to be at, we'll have one big large ballroom, and with that ballroom, we'll have, we'll space people out. Well, we actually have 2 ballrooms, another one around the corner. So we'll have lunch set up, I think, right outside, and then people can grab their, figure out where your space is, and then people can grab their lunches and go start their team meetings. So I'll give you just a little quick view of the agenda, which I was going to do at the beginning but didn't. So we'll be there. We'll be checking in on Monday night, getting things set up, and then some of the people are already, some of you and some of the others are coming in on Monday night because they need to be, the travel time is too great. So we start our CCT club meeting at 1:45, and they're going to have the 10 clubs that are coming are going to set up displays about what they've been doing in their clubs. So it'll be kind of fun. And then we'll be an intro to that. And then we'll have presentations by, I think, 2 of the clubs at this point. They're going to show slides or whatever about what they've done. And then Iris, did you get on? Are you on? I don't know what happened.
I'm here.
Yay, Iris!
Yay!
So Iris is actually going to do a session for the students and everybody that's there on developing mindfulness. So we're pretty excited about that. Thank you for stepping up. And then we'll have a wrap up from that and get the students to kind of generate some takeaway ideas. The whole idea is to get the students engaged and thinking and where they can go next with these clubs. And then we have a reception. So we'll actually have sort of a dinner there. So again, come in, come get dinner. So you don't have to go outside and get it. And visit the clubs. And we'll also be having our existing programs, setting up displays. So what we want the students to learn about the existing programs. So they're going to set up, And then the next morning we have breakfast because it's at the Embassy Suites. So you'll get your breakfast from their breakfast room and then move it into our sort of ballroom area where we have our displays. And then people will be able to sort of look at the displays, talk to the programs. So the people who are coming in new will also have an opportunity at that time to look at what the existing programs are doing. So then June hooked us up with this. So Angela Long, who is a young woman with Down syndrome in Michigan who completed her, I think it's AA degree, is coming with her mom. And then the teacher who worked with her a lot is Maria Peak, who's kind of a famous transition specialist in Michigan. So they're going to be down, and she's going to talk about her persistence in achieving her goals and completing her degree program. And we think it'll just be really exciting for both the students with disabilities and without to hear someone articulate this and think about setting goals for themselves and pursuing those goals. And it's kind of cool because she paid for her way by working at Kroger. So, you know, really be kind of a testament to her hard work and support that she got to do this. And then, and I hope they show slides of her getting her degree because it was really fun. There's a video out there, I think it was in the Detroit News about that.
Yeah, she's really excited about coming too, Paula.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. And so then we'll have a break, and then we're going to sort of reverse it. So Maria and Angela are going to lead a session with the students that are there. And I mean, we may only have 20, 25 students there, but that's going to be to think about, okay, well, as we think about college and careers and choosing a pathway or post-secondary program, what information do we want? How is the best way to get us that information? Tell us who to go to get us information. So again, if you all are there, well, no, you guys won't be there because you'll be in Facilitator, Brief. So when the whole idea is to just generate this flow of information from these high school students in relating to, of course, Angela and Maria. And like I said, Maria's been a transition person in Michigan, so high school students are who she's worked with. And so I think that'll be kind of a fun session for them. And then hopefully, you know, we'll have some takeaways from that. Now, we could change that time. Right now we have 10:30. I don't know if we need, I don't know if we need, I think I might change that to 11:30 because I don't know that we'll need an hour for that. And then we'll have sort of takeaways from everything from 11:30 to noon. So again, this is just version 3. Then we get to start with you all and the post-secondary piece. So that starts at 1:30. And then again, we have this focus. So Chris, I've woven you and Tasha into here. So Chris is going to really lead the stuff with the families. So the first part is going to be talking with the whole group and asking about questions. What issues have they had with working with families? What have they learned? What's worked? What are concerns? And this also gives the sort of current program people an opportunity to talk about what's happened and what they've experienced, both highs and lows. And then the new people who are in the process of planning programs to understand from their perspective or you know, what are some of the issues and then what questions they have. So it will really be sort of an information generation about this is what the issues are, these are our continuing concerns, these are our experiences, these are some of the things that we thought worked. And then what's going to happen though is we have a panel that Chris and Tasha Little are going to do. And Tasha is the director of the Florida Family Transition Network. I guess that's what it's called. Is that right, Drew?
Family Network on Disabilities.
Oh, Family Network on Disabilities, right. Yes. So, and we have Santa Fe College who will be having a parent Indian River State College, who will be bringing a grandparent, and Florida Atlantic is bringing the parent of a student who was their first graduate from their program. So, so we've had a webinar with them, and basically they're going to talk about from their family perspective. These were the concerns that we've had. This is what we've experienced as we've learned about this opportunity for our children or our young people. And then these were our concerns. This is what's worked as they've been in these programs. This is maybe what could have been done better. So it'll be a panel with our program people, Linda, Maria Partee, and I think Mike Brady. No, I think Gwen is doing the FAU piece.
Yes.
So that'll be pretty exciting. And then just Chris and Tasha will sort of just we'll have a what do you call that? A riser set up with a long table. We'll have 2 mics for everybody. So that's the webinar you're invited to, Chris.
Yes. Got
we had Maria couldn't do it, so we worked with Maria yesterday, but Santa Fe and FAU were supposed to be on the next one. So then the next thing will be a wrap up that they do, just generating information that we can carry away, which is, okay, now you've heard concerns and experiences from the programs. Now we've heard concerns and experiences and what worked from family, parents, grandparents. Where are we going to go with this? So it's really, what have we learned from this? And part of that would be how we can use that information as a center to then work with programs and or develop materials that would be useful to them. So then we're done for the day. Tomorrow there'll be breakfast on your own at Embassy Suites, and then the focus shifts to faculty. So the first case, and Janice, you'll be looking at your name on here because I was going to ask you if you would facilitate this panel. Hopefully that's not too much of a shock. I can't see your face. It looks like it's smiling to me. And have we had that? We've already had that panel, that web call or conference call, haven't we?
Yes.
Yeah, we had that. Yes, we had that the other day. Okay, so we'll just work with Janice to let you know what's going on. And so we have 4 of the programs that we're going to talk here. So Robert Morgan. So the focus of this area is faculty who teach classes, they're normal classes, who have students in Florida programs in their classes, earning the same units or going through the same curriculum as all their other students. So the colleges that are going to do that are Robert Morgan and Santa Fe. Not Santa Fe, Tallahassee Community College. So with Robert Morgan, we have an individual who is their chef in their culinary program, and then we have their primary instructor in their graphic arts program. He's the director of the graphic arts program. So, those are the 2 pathways available at Robert Morgan. So they will be on, but we will be videotaping them in advance. So Vivian will be there, and then we'll play a video from her 2 folks. So they have the same sort of questions and focus that we went over with our conference call with them. And then Tallahassee will be there in person, and they have a faculty member coming on their team that also teaches the sort of intro to college course that all students take, and that is part of the first semester for their what's the name of their program? Their new program.
Tallahassee's is Eagles Connection.
Eagle Connections. Eagle Connections is their program. So so there's the regular course, regular instructor, and really the questions are, how are you prepared to work with students with intellectual disabilities in this regular curriculum or in your curriculum? What kind of supports do you provide? How do you sort of negotiate accommodations or whatever it is the students need in order to complete that content? So And then Santa Fe or University of Central Florida is going to bring a professor that actually has students audit their regular class. So that's another, these are really the curriculum delivery methods that these programs use. So same classes as all students, auditing classes, auditing regular classes, and then providing specialized courses directed at this population in particular. So UCF will do the focus on auditing. So again, how do you come up with the student learning outcomes for that course? How do students demonstrate that they've learned the content of the course, etc. And then Santa Fe will be bringing a person who teaches their Saints workshop. So it's a workshop specifically for their students, I think, as they're coming into the program. So again, 3 different ways of delivering curriculum, and that's what they're going to be talking about. So in that case, we've got 4 institutions. They have 15 minutes each, and then we'll have 15 minutes for questions and answers. So that's what's going on there. Take a break, and then we come back and we do the same thing with engaging the broader campus community. So this is where I said we want to look at how people are using other campus units to help do the business of the program, so it's not all on the head of the program coordinator in this case, or it's not on head on the disability coordinator, or whatever that might be. So I'm hoping that this information is going to be really useful to the people, the participants are there, but also useful to you all as you work with people to figure out how they're going to develop their program or how they're going to improve their program. And again, we'll want to get back feedback from Bea and Stephen in particular, and how that kind of content sort of moves on to the broader field. So in this case, we've got Florida Keys Community College. They're bringing the director of their Student Learning Center that provides support to students in their academic classes. TCC is actually bringing a professor that makes the connection between the provost office, the academic affairs people, and the program, because again, that's where we see a lot of angst by the provost office and academic affairs of what kind of units are these students earning, what do you mean a credential, blah, blah, blah. So this person has sort of made that connection and keeps that connection open for them. When I went to my first meeting there, the provost was there. So it's again, integrating what you're doing into an academic affairs kind of perspective. And then Southeastern and both Florida Atlantic are bringing financial aid people. And Southeastern is doing a really far out job with their, Joshua Breed is their financial aid director, and he's the one that submits the scholarship request, he's the one that submits the reports. It's not on the program director, and it works so well, I can tell you that. So so those are the content areas on which we're going to focus. There are lots of others that we could do, but these we had to narrow it down, and again, it's the same format. 15 minutes for each of them, and then 15 minutes for questions. So then after that, what we're going to do is we've got these 2 ballrooms of space. So we're going to have our lunch set up, and then I can't remember if it's a buffet or a takeaway box lunch, but either way, we will have table signs set up. And then, like you get your schedule at the Institute that tells you what team, how many people are on it, and where you're meeting. We'll do the same thing. In this case, it might just be table 1 in such and such ballroom. And then we'll have signs on the tables. So you'll know, and your team members will know where to go. So we'll give that to them when they check in. You'll get that ahead of time. But then remember, it's always subject to change because something comes up. Okay, so then you'll go to your lunch and then start wherever you can in that whole planning process, depending on if somebody's new or somebody's continuing and where they're going next. So like FIU's, their plan was to submit their, I think their proposal by, I don't know, mid-June or something. They're on the way. They're processing it through their academic people right now. So they'll be way out there, and they're going to be looking to making plans to what next, what happens next. And then, of course, we'll be done with that by 2:30. And then you're welcome to stay for the workshop. So it's the College Reading and Learning Association peer tutor program certification workshop. So we have a lot of people signed up for that. It's kind of amazing. So I'm glad people are taking advantage of all this content. Okay, so let me get back to this real quick. Okay, I'm getting better at this navigation. So there you have your discussion. But you need a laptop because everybody's going to have a test site that you're going to be working with at Facilitator Prep. And if you don't have one, let us know and we'll bring and make arrangements for one. The Facilitator Prep manual we sent out in January, but it's also attached here. So download that if you want to, or bring your copy if you've had it. We're sending you one of the documents that's in here in the chat room for you to get is a technical soundness. There's two versions. There's a Word version and there's a PDF version, and it's of all the teams. So so when you look at that big giant, oh well, here's the stuff on the Facilitator Prep manual. I'm not going to go through that. You all have all had that. I want to get to this. So you're getting this monster technical soundness document. And so, you know, intact of one of the things June has been involved in for the ages is going back over people's plans and kind of giving them a grade on the technical soundness of the plan. So how good is the goal? How good are the tasks? Do they sort of meet these criteria that we've established? And the criteria were established with a lot of work behind them. And so then they sort of kind of get a grade. Now, normally when we do this, we do some reliability analysis. We have not done that this year. We're not giving this to the teams. But we thought if you have this, and once you get the names of the teams that you'll be working with, if they have stuff from January, you can pull that section up and look at sort of that grade for their plan. And then that'll help you all figure out, you know, where we really need to start over with the goal, or their goals seem to be good and their timelines seem to be good, but they didn't do anything with their evaluation section. So that might be something that you start working on once you verify the other part is still in place and what they're working for. So that gives you a starting point. So you just can use it as a preliminary analysis of, you know, what you might need to address with your team. So Caitlin put this together. We thank her for that. There are two forms, and the reason there's two forms is because if you want to take that work form, and there are page breaks for each institution, and they're in alphabetical order. If you have Beacon College and they're not coming, but I'm just going to give you an example. You could just save it as Beacon College and remove all the rest of the pages. Or you can go in there and just cut out pieces of the teams that you're working with, so you're not working with such a big, massive document. But or if you just wanted to use the PDF version, use the PDF version. Well, that's just whatever you want to do with. And again, this is not something you're going to give to the teams because I hesitate to without doing a reliability analysis. So that's that big giant monster of a thing you're getting. And then, of course, we'll be sending the electronic files of the team plans, but not yet. We're going to make sure we get those assignments done, and hopefully by the end of the week. You've got a draft agenda. We'll let you know when your test site is ready. Again, if your username is your email address, your password is your current intact password if you have one. If you don't have one, you can use your email address if you're a new user. So I think Pat and Iris and Jill and others will probably need to do that. And when we tell you you're ready, your site's open, we've launched, we've gone live. Then when you log in, you're going to be able to see the team plans for those that you're assigned to, because we will have added you as a facilitator to their team plan. So when you log in, you're going to have access to those. So you have access to those plans. If there's anything there, in some cases they may not have been there, so there won't be anything in it, but it's there for them to use. And then you'll also be able to see your just blank site that you can play with and test, which facilitators typically find is helpful to them. So if you can just make sure they have at least one goal, help them connect the dots. We'll have flip charts there for you if you need them. That's up to you, whatever you think is going to work in that context with your team. But if you can keep them engaged and excited, then that's how we see them leaving the institutes and then moving forward. So the other the on-site facilitator prep will be there at the Embassy Suites. It's on Wednesday, that June 26th, and we'll start at 8:30. So go downstairs, have your breakfast, Embassy Suite omelets, and we have a surprise for you. So when we'll start at 8:30, and we'll get going, and then at 9:15 we're gonna go over and listen to Angela and be able to listen to her session. It's from 9:15 to 10:15, and then we'll go back to facilitator prep until I think it's 1 o'clock, and then so we just we knew people might want to be able to see that presentation by her, so work that in. And then be sure to bring your laptop, and we will have lunch during that time. I think we have lunch at noon or something. So you'll be able to get lunch. You're going to be working right up to almost when we start, but you don't have to worry about making a bazillion flip charts like you do at the beginning. Okay. I know. There you go. What do you think?
Lots of stuff. Good stuff.
Lots of stuff. You're right.
I like the technical soundness. Is this the first time?
Yep. Yeah, well, we usually do it, but we were able last year to do some reliability that June did after Caitlin had done the original analysis. But you see my pelicans? But this year we haven't had a chance to do that, so we just are not going to. Where's my Zoom meeting? Here we go. Can I get this thing to move over? I hate my camera's there and I'm looking at you guys over there. It's just very difficult. Okay, there it goes. It moved for me. Thank you. So, yep, we've always done that, but and what we've done with Intact over the years is we've actually given that back to the team so that they can learn more about their technical soundness. So, this is really an area that y'all could think about, or let us help you with your evaluation, or whatever the case may be. And but again, some of this process is still so new to this group that we hesitate to throw too much at them. I mean, we're already throwing a lot, and I think when you see TCC and some of the others that have come before, then they're getting much more comfortable for it. And we've increased way the number of teams that are coming to this, and as well as the number of people. So,
Paula, this is Heather. Can you hear me?
I can see you.
Oh, good. I was late.
You're actually on us twice. I see you twice.
I was late getting in, but the 25th, that's not for facilitators, right?
The 25th and 6th and 7th. The 25th is the college and career transition class.
So do we need to be there as facilitators?
Well, you won't be facilitating at that, but if you want to come and see what's going on and be at the reception that night with them, then you are welcome.
Okay.
We just need to know if you need a hotel room for that night.
Okay. And the hotel rooms will be paid for?
Yes, yes. We have a master hotel list. And so all of you, and then every participant is actually on that master list. So that's what we've tried a couple of different things in terms of reimbursing people's expenses and half of their team and blah, blah, blah. So now basically we just pay the hotel rooms, and then they have to pay their other expenses associated with travel, but we pay all your expenses. We pay the hotel rooms up front. Those of you who are flying, if you wanted us to, we pay your flight up front, and then you'll have to turn in your receipts for parking, mileage, those kinds of things, transportation from the airport to the hotel. That's kind of big. You'll have to turn in her mileage from Gainesville, and same with Jeannie.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
But we need to make sure on your registration that we know what day you're coming in on, so we have you on the master room list.
Okay.
Okay.
Paula, we have a question from Susan in the chat box.
Okay.
Do you have the chat box open, or do you want me to read it?
I see it. It would be appropriate to start there if they have been actively working on the plan. Yeah, so one thing, Susan, you could do that, ever so gently, and just say, okay, y'all are talking a lot about what you're doing. Is this aligned with those goals that you set out? Do we need to relook at the goals? Are the goals, we want to make sure the goals aren't just doing stuff, but it's achieving stuff. The goals are going to lead us to our outcome. So you want to spend a few minutes just reworking or double checking your goals to make sure they're, and one thing that you'll see when you go to the tool is that, let me see if I can work up the tool right there. I have to do this whole share thing again. Share. When you're in here, you're going to have example goals for every benchmark. So you could just go ahead and pull, this is still the ones from Intech, but the new ones are getting put on here. You'll be able to actually go in there and say, okay, here are some really outcome focused goals. This is kind of the format that we're thinking about. So do any of these match what you want to do? Or is there something else you want to do? I mean, they don't have to, this isn't like an IEP checklist where you pick the goals, but basically I'll tell you what I did. I'll show you what I did. And this is June, you helping this. This will be fantastic. Okay. And Chris, whatever, because I know you're all familiar with this.
And Paula, this is Susan. And I really was thinking not necessarily in terms only of goals, but if there's any part on the technical soundness that says, whoa, we need to back up and start over here. Should we be addressing that before we start in on the next step?
I think you should, because one of the issues is going to be, I mean, because you might get to evaluation and they just haven't done anything. So, you could say, okay, here are your goals. Here's what your tasks are and your plans and your timeline. Does that still work? Okay, we really only have one outcome on here. Is there anything that you have to expect to do that? And then how are we going to tell whether or not that's accomplished? So you may be lucky enough that that's where you pick up. That'd be great. And some of the ones like Jacksonville State College or UF Jacksonville, they don't have anything. And I think, Chris, you can remind me, but I think the DOC people kind of had something, but yeah, so they're going to have someplace to start, but I think the people from Gateway might be new to that team.
Right.
So that'll be one of the issues. But here's what you're going to be able to, this is what you're going to see. This is all the stuff that's being uploaded in there, the content. So if you can bring people to this, it's going to be something, a resource to them that they didn't have before. So here's the student focused area. So I went through every benchmark and basically I just developed some real simple goals. So our students enroll in a program of study aligned with their personal academic career goals, develop the person-centered planning process. So they're going to focus on that. They're going to do person-centered planning in their system, in their program. From that's going to come a program of study for each student, and it's going to match their career goals or what they're interested in. Another benchmark is about students using self-determination. So it's pretty straightforward. Our students develop and apply self-determination skills. They have work experiences and they develop skills through work experiences, but you can see how straightforward these are and how sort of personal they are to them. So I think that's what's a little different in how I've written them. And then when you look at the strategies, you'll see there are a lot of tests, there's a lot of detail there. So when you think about the student-focused area, then you get into our 4 strategies: our database decision-making, capacity building, resource mapping, and partnership development. Then you're going to see I'm going to go back up to those things and to those reflective questions that are in part 1. And it's going to say, okay, we're going to use formal and informal assessment strategies to identify their interests and abilities, apply the results to develop the student's program of study. So these can actually be transformed into tasks, real easily, but they're just examples of the strategies. So then it's use person-centered planning. All of this is under database decision-making. So if they check database and decision-making as a strategy, you can go right in here and identify examples of what that might be. Or here's capacity building. So they want to make sure that they provide professional development and TA to faculty about methods for assessing student learning outcomes in their course. So if the courses, they're auditing courses, or they are taking these regular courses, what are the expectations? Might you be assessing students differently to make sure that they have the same learning? So that's the capacity. We have to teach people to do that or support teachers to do that. One of the things here is that the goals is that in the benchmarks is students understand their post-secondary rights and responsibilities. So you might enroll students in a course, first experience, through which they learn the post-secondary rights and responsibilities. A lot of institutions have that, as you know. So then the resource mapping might be, what are the technology resources on campus, and determine any accessibility issues to your students. What kind of technology? And that ties right back to this goal. Our students use technology to support their engagement and blah, blah, blah. So I've tried to write them in a very straightforward, aligned way. And I think that gives them more concrete stuff to work on. And then professional partnership development would be, you got to work with local K-12 to recruit students. Work with VR so that they provide the financial support the students need to succeed. Work with your local chambers and businesses to develop resources, and see those tie in to our students use the financial aid to support their enrollment. So all of the areas are written like that. So then I've got the outputs. Well, here are specific outputs: assessment protocols, personal-centered planning, their program of study, a self-determination curriculum, metrics for assessing student learning outcomes, for assessing SAP, a student accommodation guide. You might have this that has general information about the student or about the accommodations in general. And then you might have, okay, for this student, here are their accommodations in this particular course. Technology assessment, code of content. So again, as you all are doing this, Stephen, B, Janice, Chris, those of you who have worked in that specific field area in post-secondary education, and your feedback on these things is going to be really important to us as this is easy for us to refine. We can add to it. We can expand it, we can reduce it, but for right now, I just tried to go by each benchmark so that there's a parallel for each benchmark to sample goals, the strategies, and really the strategies, I think, are the tasks. You just pick an area and you can pull those into your task list. And then here's the sample indicators from those. And many of these are pulled from the first part where we have the sample questions, reflective questions, and the indicators there as people look at their data, and then of course data sources. So that's how we've developed this content to make it real explicit to the benchmarks, and then, organize along those, whatever those are, strategies, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm almost done with that. We just have got the goals and everything developed for everything, and the strategies all developed. Just need to finish those outputs and outcomes and indicators for those last two things. So I'm sending it to you, June.
Paula,
Yes.
this is Jeannie.
Jeannie.
Hey, I have a couple of quick questions, but related to this. In working with the teams, will they have a hard copy of that, or are they working off our computers?
They're working off the computers. Yeah.
Okay, so really we'll have one computer because
Well, one computer that'll be logged, they can all log in.
they can all log into. Okay,
but
that's
they
important.
can't edit. Only
Okay.
only the team leader and the facilitator can edit.
Okay.
Now, they can assign a note taker, and then if you have a larger team, they may assign a note taker.
Right.
You can actually log in and edit as well.
Okay. So along with that, the editing concept. So, I know people don't always like to do exactly what they're supposed to do.
Oh, really?
So, including myself, by the way. So
we don't want any rogue facilitators there, Janie.
No, I'll be good. I promise. But I can anticipate that you would see these goals and all of the things that you've developed that are in your new system,
Yeah.
that people wouldn't want them to be exactly as they're stated there.
Right.
But
Right. They're just examples. Yeah.
You have to do it exactly. You don't need that for your data.
No,
to go across.
They're examples.
Okay.
But you're right. What we will probably do, we'll probably make a hard copy of this. So they've got a hard copy of their instructions, which has been the same. They just don't have the screenshots in them yet. But the instructions, and then steps 1 through 3 is a paper, and that's where they start picking goals.
Okay.
So we'll make a hard copy of this as
Or at
well.
least for one or two for each
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
And the size of the team. So then here's the other question. And this may be a naive question. So I understand
There are
that.
no naive questions, and we can define good facilitators in lots of ways, okay? There's not only one way.
I know. So part of me says I would look at what team you send me, or teams, or whatever you send me.
Yeah.
And I would look to see how they would already match up to what's going on with the new system you're sending me, the online
Right.
system.
Did they do anything in January that's now in this
Right.
system? Yeah.
So the other part of me says if they already have stuff, is it going to be inputted into the system, or can I input it before I meet with them?
No, if they already have stuff, we will have it in there.
Okay.
We are
Okay.
loading all of that. Yep.
You've done good. You've answered my questions for the moment.
Awesome. If you have more,
Thank
you
you.
can always email. And that's why we're having the facilitator prep.
Right. I appreciate that.
It is going to be new, and good facilitators come in all shapes, sizes, and
Oh, I know.
versions. So you're good because you just keep your arms around the team and keep them moving forward. They're moving
Right.
forward in lots of different ways. Or you're good in that, man, you got these people in this electronic thing, they're using it and they're flying. Or you're good because you can give them some suggestions.
Well, so it seems to me that if they come away with a loose plan, a starting place, depending on
Right.
where they are, and they're real grounded and they're psyched about it, then you've
that's a
come
good
a
thing.
long way.
Yep, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And that's just it. Some of these people, FIU, they've pretty much got their application and the grant proposal together. It's going through their system right now for approval. So they're going to submit that. Well, then we will get them approved most likely before September.
Cool.
So get their grant agreement in place. So they're going to be then, I think before, part of their planning was to get their application submitted, and they had to do a number of things to do that. So I think now they've done those things. So they may say, well, we've already accomplished our goal. Let's set their next goal. Now, one thing that's not on the slides that I need for you guys, we'll be announcing it there, is to set your calendar, because the reason we keep bringing you all back is because we think we're making a big investment in a huge resource to the state, and that's you all as facilitators. So we will want you back on Tuesday, November 5th. So we are moving our annual institute to November from January. some of you may recall we wanted to do this in September so that people are planning and then they're working on their plan throughout the year. And then we got flooded out by Irma. We had to move it to January. So now we're moving it back. So it's November 5th through the 8th. And it's going to be, Shana and I went through a walk through this morning of the hotel. It's the Wyndham Grand Resort over at, I don't know, somewhere.
Bonnet
Creek. And oh my God, it's absolutely beautiful. So it's a little bit more upscale than B, but we had to bid it out, and those were the people who bid on it, and they won the bid. So there we are. I can't help it if it's fancy. It is what it is.
That's impressive.
And there are all kinds of amenities, like 5 swimming pools, 6 jacuzzis. It's quite lovely, and I think the space will work. We don't have all those individual rooms like we do for the teams, but
is there a Chico's, Paula?
oh my God, I don't know. There's an outlet mall somewhere down there. Good question. Anyway, but I don't think we're going to have to go off site like we did to go to the Mexican restaurant in January, because we had a lovely lunch at that they fixed us there today with and they want to, we can customize our menu, we can do whatever, but I think it's going to work, and people are going to like being there, and it is kind of a step up, but we had to take the only bid that we got, and that was them. So anyway, that's it, but we will, what we're going to do, just a heads up, is these, so you're going to get questions about this, and we'll talk about facilitator prep on site, but all these programs that got approved initially, there were 8 of them, they're approved for 3 years. So when they submit an application and get approved, it's good for 3 years. Subsequently, they have to submit another application, and then if they get approved for that, it's good for 5 years. So one of the encouraging things you want to keep on them about is collecting evaluation data, because when they go to submit another proposal for renewing their program, they're going to have to show that their program is working. So what's the employment outcomes of your students, et cetera, et cetera. 2 of the initial programs wrote 2-year grants. Now their program won't expire until next year, but their grant is ending just June 30. So that's Robert Morgan and that's McFadder down in Broward County. So we're working with them and their new grant proposals. They're getting no cost extensions, so those won't be starting on July 1. But again, you'll see just a little mismatch. Why'd you run it for 2 years? Just make it fair. It doesn't align, so it's fine. But then, so what we're going to do is for the pre-conference workshop on Wednesday, November 6th, for the big 2019 plus, I think we're calling it, or 2019 2.0. I don't know what we're calling it. We're going to do a pre-conference workshop on preparing your FTPT application. That could be new application or your renewal, and then your grant proposals. So, if your people are starting thinking about, how do I do this? How do when are we going to be reapplying for our programs, blah, 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 then that's, and we'll be doing have a card everywhere that tells them to save the date. So that's when the date's going to be. We want to get it on your calendars. We need you. So that's about all we have, unless you guys have more facilitators. Everybody's registered. We all know when you're coming in.
Yeah.
We have rooms for you. Okay.
Yeah, Paula, this is Heather.
Yeah.
I know I filled out the registration. I just don't know if I did it for the 25th. Can somebody get back with me and let me know if I did that or not?
I'll be happy to do that, Heather.
Thank you, Drew. And also when I sent it in, it did not go to whoever the other person was besides you and Paula. It tried it like 3 times and it sent it back to I think it was an office personnel person.
Oh, it was FCSUA travel, maybe?
No.
So you got into our online system and registered?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
It was Shana,
Shana, yeah.
okay. So it did not ever reach her. So I just want to make sure it got there to one of you guys and that it's counted.
Okay, we'll check.
And Drew, you'll follow up with me?
Yes, yes, Heather. I'm looking right now. I'm just scrolling down to the M's.
Anybody else have a question?
I'm the
Oh,
person.
my screen has frozen, so I can't see the chat box to see
Oh.
for some
Okay.
reason. So if you could check the chat box just to see if anybody's written anything.
No, I don't see anything. Just Heather asking about the 25th, and we already answered Susan's question. So anybody else have a question? Mm-mm. Okay, well, I will be excited to see you guys in 3 weeks or so, or whenever that is. And we so appreciate it. And again, you'll be getting these materials dribbling in. And then once you get your new site, feel free to have a party. We are so excited.
Heather, you registered for all 3.
25th, 26th, and 27th.
Yes, all 3 you signed up for.
Okay, thank you.
There you go. Yes. Question? Anybody else? Okay, we're going to let you go. We tried not to go too long or stay overtime, but evidently we have. So everybody be well, travel safe. We love you, and we really do appreciate you. And thank you, Iris, for stepping up. We really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
Paul.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Chris, I'll see you later.